The top three races in the midterms. Now, the way I have picked this is I've chosen one Senate race, one gubernatorial race, and one congressional race. So let me go with the first, actually, runner-up. So this is a race that did not make it into my top three, but I do think it is important to watch. And if you are in Florida, you have to vote. So this is DeSantis versus Andrew Gillum. So Andrew Gillum is, people forget what the conversation was like just 2 years ago. 2 years ago, Andrew Gillum would be considered a fairly strong progressive. Now, no one's Bernie Sanders, so stop making that comparison. Nobody has a 40-year history of being on the same side of every issue for the past 40 years. No one has a history like Bernie Sanders. So stop comparing everyone to Bernie Sanders. But separate from that, Andrew Gillum is strong on these issues. He's strong on healthcare. And I know some of his language isn't perfect for some of you crazy people. But you have to understand, the battle for the progressive ideas happens in the primaries. That's when that happens. And Andrew Gillum, out of the candidates in the primary for the Democratic Party, was, from my understanding, the most progressive person in that race. He came from fourth place, ended up winning, getting the nomination, and now you have to vote for him over this crazy racist fuck DeSantis. So I've covered, I think, one or two of their debates. Or did I? I covered at least one of their debates. I may have not posted the video because I think by the time I was, there was some reason I didn't post the video. I don't think I didn't go as in depth into the debate that I wanted to, and then I ended up not covering it at all. But it was one of Gillum's responses to a question about DeSantis and DeSantis being racist.
He has spoken at racist conferences. He's accepted a contribution and would not return it from someone who referred to the former president of the United States as a Muslim, Nigger. When asked to return that money, he said no. He's using that money to now fund negative ads. Now, I'm not calling Mr. DeSantis a racist. I'm simply saying the racists believe he's a racist.
Mr. DeSantis.
Now, if that isn't the most perfect way to call somebody a racist without directly calling them a racist, I don't know what is. I thought that was brilliant. So, if Andrew Gillum was Hillary Clinton, I would still be telling you to vote for Hillary Clinton because that's how bad DeSantis is. But Andrew Gillum is not a Hillary Clinton. Andrew Gillum is much better than Hillary Clinton. You have to vote for Andrew Gillum. So that is my runner-up that didn't make the top three, but it's also a very important race and one where I haven't seen much talk or any talk about there being voter tampering or disenfranchisement as much in Florida as I have in other states. So it's one where I really think Andrew Gillum can and will win because I don't see the system working against him necessarily in that state. And that's not what I could really say for some of these other races that I'm going to get to here. So let me go to, these aren't really in order, but let me go to Texas. So Texas, this, let's say, is one of the top three races, I think, to watch in the midterms. And of course, it's Beto O'Rourke going up against Ted Cruz. Again, this is a very similar situation in a way to Gillum and DeSantis in the sense that O'Rourke isn't the perfect candidate, if you really want to break it down, but Ted Cruz. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, but the lesser of two evils. No, this is not even a lesser of two evils. Beto O'Rourke is a fantastic candidate, especially for Texas. In Texas, you could have had somebody like Joe Manchin. So Beto O'Rourke is leagues better than Joe Manchin. Understand, especially for Texas, Beto O'Rourke is a fantastic candidate. He is not only great on the social issues, which he's displayed over and over again, but he's also open to ideas like Medicare for all. And I understand some of his language isn't perfect around some of these economic progressive issues, but he talks about them. He's somebody that you can push once they are in. So again, this is a race that is so important. I have a friend in Texas. I should text him again to remind him to make sure he's voting, make sure his family's voting, because this race, look, I want to see Ted Cruz lose more than I want to see Beto O'Rourke win. Beto O'Rourke, as I said, is a great candidate. I think he's fantastic. But Ted Cruz is, let me put it this way. Ted Cruz is more of a bad person than Beto O'Rourke is a great candidate. So seeing Ted Cruz out would just be perfect. I can't imagine anybody on, even people that are moderate right-wingers, moderate conservatives, everybody hates Ted Cruz. The entire Senate hates Ted Cruz. And now they all have to pretend, oh, because we need his vote on some of these issues, yeah, let's work with Ted Cruz. Trump out there campaigning with Ted Cruz after all the shit he said about his dad, about his wife. I mean, Ted Cruz is the saddest person alive. You have to vote for Beto O'Rourke if you're in Texas. I mean, what else is there to say? I assume if you're in my chat and you're in Texas, you are planning to vote or you have already voted. If not, then I'm not taking your question. But if you have voted for Beto O'Rourke, then I will be open to taking your question. If you know it's a super chat or a patron question. Let's move on. So I've done Andrew Gillum DeSantis, Beto O'Rourke, Ted Cruz. I'm going to save the video stuff that I have for last. So let me go to the second, or one of the, second of the three big races that I think are the most important to watch in the midterms, and that's Stacey Abrams going up against Brian Kemp. Now, this is one where, actually, this also relates to the Texas race, but voter disenfranchisement, the purge that happened in Georgia there. I mean, here is a situation where, much like Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz, where there are machines, I think it's like 30% of machines is what I was reading, have an issue with recording the vote. So 30% of machines in Texas, if you hit Democrat and you do all Democrat ticket, it actually switches your vote to Ted Cruz. Now, you can go down, scroll down, apparently, and individually select and change it to Beto O'Rourke. But if 30% of machines have the possibility of doing that, that could easily swing the election in favor of Ted Cruz, which is another reason why you have to make sure to go out and vote. But also in Georgia, where the vote is being essentially pushed down and people are potentially not able to vote on voting day. Again, another situation where it's so important to vote, because if you have the ability to vote and you're not purged from the list, then your vote really matters. And this is another close race where, I mean, Brian Kemp has control over the voting rolls. The whole situation is so fucked up. So, again, Stacey Abrams is a fantastic candidate, and I'm sure people could find issues that they have with her too. But all these, as I said earlier, all of the discussion around who should be the best Democrat in the race should happen during the primary. But once that is over and the candidate is chosen, you vote for the Democrat, because that means that is your only power. That is your only pressure point. So if they win, if Stacey Abrams wins, if Beto O'Rourke wins, if Andrew Gillum wins, your only point of attack is to pressure them when they're in office. If they're not there and it's a Republican, you have no power. You have zero power. So it is so important to vote. Even if you don't love the candidate you were voting for, you have the potential to move them on these issues. Now, the most important race, or one of the three most important races, is with this guy. I'll show you in a second because I'm going to introduce him. Richard Ojeda. Richard Ojeda. So this is, in my opinion, the most important congressional race. Richard Ojeda going up against Carol Miller. Now, this is in West Virginia, and this is where Ojeda, the Democrat, has closed a 50-point gap in Trump country. Now, how has he done that? With incredible ads like this.
I'm Richard Ojeda, and people say that I'm angry. Well, angry is an understatement. When I come home and I find that I got children in my backyard that have it worse than the kids that I saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, I can't accept that. When I see companies using bankruptcy loopholes to keep from paying our coal miners the pensions that they work for, I will not sit quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been sold out. We've been sold out by people like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and the Washington insiders. I approve this message because I am angry and I'm ready to fight back.
I mean, this guy is incredible. If he's able to come back in Trump country and win this race, this is the blueprint for Democrats in red states moving forward. This is how you fight. You call them out in the corruption. You're not afraid to call out the leadership in the party. He calls out Nancy Pelosi in his own party, in his ad. This is how you win. So Ojeda is essentially acting as an independent, but he's running as a Democrat in this race. And he has closed this 50-point gap and has the ability to actually win in Trump country because of this approach that he's taken. This guy is the perfect candidate. And he is look, even if he loses, the fact that he's come this close shows you that this should be emulated elsewhere. Now, let me show you his other ad, which is also fantastic.
I'm Richard Ojeda. Drug companies have made millions pouring their opioids into our communities, ripping apart our families. What has Carol Miller done? She's accepted campaign cash from the very same companies responsible. She's even profiting from this epidemic, an epidemic that has killed thousands of West Virginians. She actually owns stock in one of the companies responsible for it all, McKesson. I approve this message because Carol Miller's not going to fight this opioid epidemic, but I will.
Yo, this guy he's so fucking good. He is so good. He calls out the corruption, directly connects her to the money that she's taken, to the money that she's invested in these companies that have destroyed West Virginia. He exposes all of that, while at the same time also being free to take on the Democratic Party establishment. I mean, you can't get a better candidate. This Richard Ojeda is the blueprint, I think, for Democrats moving forward, especially in red districts or red states. All right. Third district. Someone just messaged me, Steve Thomas. Thank you for the super chat. He's in third district. All right. West Virginia, third district. Make sure you vote for Richard Ojeda.